Coming up on Folks, we visit two churches in Baton Rouge to explore their hands-on approach to solving social problems in their neighborhoods. Hands-on churches on today's edition of Folks. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Folks. I'm Sonya Masingale. In the old days, the church was the spiritual as well as the social foundation of the black community. You've heard the old saying, the more things change, the more they remain the same. Today's black churches are rising to the challenge of today's black community with programs to address some very real needs. Today we'll meet two Baton Rouge ministers who are helping people in their congregations and in the community as well. The church programs we'll see today take on a whole new character, one very different from the old familiar routine of Thanksgiving baskets and the like. Today's black churches are taking a hands-on approach to helping. They're evolving into stronger, more active mainstays of the black community. If you were to take a peek inside of New Prospect Baptist Church on any Saturday morning, you would see anywhere from 30 to 50 children involved in Save the Children. This program promotes more than scripture reading and hymn singing. Save the Children has seminars on everything from drugs to teenage pregnancy. This morning, there is a guest speaker.
This day is the most important day of your life, because when you walk out of these doors, you're going to have to choose a road. Which way are you going to go? And I say to you, it all depends on where you want to end up. And you need to think about that today. Where do you want to end up?
The program at New Prospect is designed to boost the self-esteem of the neighborhood children and to give them structured activities on the weekends when they would usually have nothing to do.
That means what? W-O-R-K. And W-O-R-K means what? M-O-N-E-Y. So a job means work, and work means money. Okay? And money means what? Means spend. Means you don't have to beg, right? Means you don't have to steal, right? Means you don't have to cheat, right? Okay, now, what does it mean when we say that we are worthwhile?
Save the Children is just one of the programs typical of those springing up in black churches everywhere. Today's black churches are doing more than saving souls. They're taking a hands-on approach to solving social problems in their own backyards. Thanks to Shiloh Baptist Church in Baton Rouge, Anita Anderson and about 19 of her friends had jobs last summer. Anita was one of the participants in Shiloh's summer employment program. Using funds from Shiloh's Social Service Fund, the congregation was able to employ and expose their high school students to the world of work, providing for many their first experience with paid employment. Patricia Smith, one of the coordinators for the Shiloh Youth Employment Program, explains.
We have a wealth of resources within our own congregation, and that was the starting part of the program as far as selecting the youth to participate in the program. All of them were members of our church. And our job site committee that was established first sought jobs from our congregation. We were able to get law offices, real estate offices, insurance companies, persons working with the Department of Corrections, the city prosecutor's office. Just a wealth of resources were available right within our own congregation. They actually worked in law offices. They actually worked with some construction companies. They actually worked at some of the schools during the summer with clerical kinds of jobs. They actually worked in the Department of Corrections doing such things as filing, answering the phone. They actually worked in real estate offices, even processing bills to customers, working in the insurance companies, actually taking information for claims, things of that nature.
The students in the Shiloh program were paid a minimum wage salary for a period of 6 weeks. They also attended a variety of job and social skills training sessions.
It placed us in a position of not having to look to the city, state, or federal government for jobs for our youth.
Anita's job with Effie Carter's Allstate insurance firm was more than she expected in many ways.
I typed, I filed papers, I ran off copies, and Ms. Carter even let me write up an insurance policy on someone. Well, more than one, maybe 3 or 4 people, yeah. And I worked on the computer.
Personality-wise, I couldn't have asked for any better. She was very nice to have around, very eager to learn, and she did. She caught on very fast, so fast until I depended on her to do a lot of things early, and she was able to handle it. She matured to the point that when she first came in, she had not that much telephone techniques down, but she got those down very, very fast. I was very pleased with her.
Shiloh's hands-on approach to serving the community is not limited to the youth program. Among other things, there's a daycare center for children from 3 months to 4 years old. There's also a social service program where people in need can get help with things that government programs often miss. James was recently laid off from his job. He needs some help in getting medication for a chronic health condition while he continues to look for a new job.
In a week's time, about 40 to 60 people come through Shiloh seeking assistance for various reasons, utility assistance, rent assistance with their water bill, medical expense, and the like. As a black church, we're compassionate at Shiloh, and we're concerned about the total person, not only his spiritual well-being, but also his physical well-being. We are interested in formulating a spiritual part more than just the financial part. We feel that if a person comes in and indicate that they are hungry or in need of their utilities being paid, that it is necessary to work with that aspect before you can feed them spiritually. So we're really concerned about the total person.
The programs you've seen here are just a few of the ways that some churches have found to fill the needs in their community. Shiloh is one church that takes its roles seriously in the social support of its community and members.
I'm a firm believer that the church have to reach the need and meet the needs of people in every way, spiritually, financially, socially. It has to meet the needs. And once you meet the total needs of a person, then you can minister to them in other ways. It goes so far as to say, you know, why preach to me if I need to be fed? Feed me physically first and then feed me spiritually next. I can't listen very well if I need something on a physical basis first. So yes, the church should be in the forefront in every way.
Shiloh cannot hold up the whole community, you know, with the funds that we have. The funds come strictly from Shiloh's membership, and we're limited on the number of people that we can help with. We would hope that more churches would join in the effort. At least if they would assist their membership, it would help us a lot.
Oh, I'm just excited to be a part of Shiloh. It's just like one family there. You have a tendency to know the people there, and there's a lot of love. Shiloh's a very loving church, and it's just wonderful being a part of it.
Joining me in the studio today to tell us more about their programs and discuss the church's role in the black community of the 1990s are the two ministers who are responsible for the two programs that we've seen. Welcome Reverend Reginald of New Prospect Baptist Church in Baton Rouge. He's the founder of the Save the Children Saturday morning program, and Reverend Charles T. Smith of Shiloh Baptist Church, also in Baton Rouge. Reverend Pitcher, how did Save the Children get started? How did you come up with the idea in your very new small congregation that this was something that the community needed?
Well, basically, through driving through the community every day, looking at the little children on Saturdays in the projects and around the projects with nothing to do, seemingly nowhere to go, and then thinking about where I came from. I grew up in the projects in Los Angeles, and there was a man by the name of Louis Lomax who came into the projects and would take us on field trips on Saturdays. And I felt that that had an impact on me in terms of letting me know that there was life outside of the projects. And I wanted to more or less do something for them that a friend had done for me, to let the children know that there's something else more to life other than just what they see around their immediate surroundings. And I felt that the church had a responsibility to do that, expand the ministry from, you know, just the four corners, expand it out into the community as the way Christ said it should be.
One of the things that I wanted to mention about the program, we were planning on going on one of your field trips with you so we could show the bus activity, because there are things that go on from the moment you pick the children up on the bus until the moment you take them home, and you are actively involved. Would you tell us something about what you try to do with the children on the bus, on the way to the church or on their field trips?
Okay, basically we're dealing with children that don't have very much discipline, and we try to teach them, first of all, to respect each other, and then primarily respect themselves, and to listen to authority and respect authority. Basic problem we're having is that they are more or less not in tune to listening. When you say be quiet or sit down, they usually do the opposite.
You couldn't tell that from the activity in the church. I thought they were very well behaved.
Yeah, I've been active in this project, I think, about 8 months, and what you saw is a result of 8 months of hard work. But I think once they gain your trust and your respect, and they respect you and trust you, then the rest will fall in line. But basically, that's what we're attempting to do, is give them a sense of discipline, self-esteem, self-confidence.
What's your biggest problem in keeping Save the Children going?
Well, our biggest problem right now is the fact that we don't have enough volunteers who are committed and dedicated. And I'm a type of person where I feel, sometimes wrongly so, that everyone should have the energy level that I have, and since it's a thing that needs to be done, let's go out and do it. But most people don't feel that way. I've given up and dedicated my Saturdays to the program, and I have a problem maintaining dedicated and committed volunteers, along with the funding. Our funding sources are primarily through church donations, and it's a week by week process.
And you have a young, small church and young congregation
Right.
that you're just building. Well, we hope that in the future that will improve as the program matures and as you get out the good word that you're doing good works on Saturdays. One of the reasons why I chose the two different churches was because of the difference in the areas are close. I mean, you're not terribly far apart,
Right.
but one congregation is very new, very young, and the ministers just really started with that church for not too long, and it's growing. And whereas Reverend Smith has been at Shiloh for how many?
27 years.
For 27 years. Reverend Smith, how did you come up with the idea of employing your youth for the summer and not depending on any government source to do it?
Well, most of our programs grow out of a specific need, and we had the experience of having youngsters in our congregation apply for the summer youth program sponsored by the city parish and be refused for various reasons. We do have a number of relatively affluent kids in our congregation. Some of them just didn't qualify on financial grounds. Nevertheless, we have felt as if they needed this exposure and this experience as well as other people. So we felt as if the need was there, and if we had the human resources and the financial resources within the congregation, why not have our own summer youth enrichment program? And fortunately, it has worked out very well.
It has indeed. Most of the students were thrilled about being a part of the program, and not just working and getting pocket money, but in the Friday programs where they talked about chemical awareness and job readiness and doing resumes and the job fair. It was exciting to watch. But that's not all there is to Shiloh. Could you tell us about some of the other programs that you currently have in place that we were unable to tape for the program today?
Yeah, well, in keeping with our desire to try to meet the various needs, we have a very successful Federal Church Credit Union at Shiloh. Some years ago, it came to our attention that many of our people were being exploited by small loan companies. And we felt as if one way to combat this problem was to pool our own financial resources and lend money to each other. So at present, we have probably the strongest church credit union in the city. We have over 575 members of the credit union. We have financial resources in the credit union in the neighborhood of $100,000. And we pay normal rates of interest on savings. But the main thing is that we make loans to our membership at the rate of 1% interest on the unpaid balance, which we think is very reasonable, and it's a tremendous service and keeps our people from being exploited in other situations.
Credit unions, employment programs, structured social service programs, Saturday youth programs beyond the basic Bible school technique, all of this sounds new. Is it?
Well, I think that black churches have, of necessity, reached beyond the traditional role of churches for a number of years. Perhaps what you're seeing now is assistance being given on a more organized scale than was formerly done. But, you know, black churches really consist primarily of the organized poor. And it's necessary for us to be innovative, creative, and to constantly be sensitive to the specific needs of an oppressed people in our society and make provision for those needs.
Reverend, could you jump in anytime?
Yeah, I agree with that. And to add to that, we've gotten to the point now where we're going to have to become more self-reliant in terms of not depending on other people outside of our communities to come into our communities to do for us what we can and have been doing for ourselves. I think the trend is moving towards self-reliance in terms of the church being more responsive to the needs of the community. I cannot, in all justification, sit in my pulpit on Sundays realizing that there's drug infestations right across the street and there's crime right down the street and maybe unemployment, teenage pregnancies. All these things are going on right outside the doors of my church. So me being a minister called of God, I feel that the church has a responsibility not only for the spiritual needs of the ministers, of the members, but also for their physical needs as well. And I think more churches, especially in the black neighborhood, is going to have to wake up and respond to the needs more directly.
Do you see it happening now? Do you see the churches as we move, as I said, into the 1990s and on into the 21st century, do you see more and more black churches involving themselves in the community in a hands-on way?
Well, I don't know what Elder might say, but I've looked at the situation in terms of, say, I'm young, I'm aggressive, and I think it needs to be done on faster. It needs to move faster. They're responding, but not fast enough. You know, I think the situation right now is getting to the point where we need to, as a group of ministers, as a church, we need to organize and get the programs moving now. You know, as a matter of fact, we're late.
Reverend Smith, would you comment on that?
Yeah, well, I'm inclined to agree with Reverend Pitcher. that the response on the part of many of our churches has been relatively slow. But I think that there is a greater sensitivity to needs now than there formerly was, and I'm optimistic that we're going to do more together in the future than we have done in the past.
All around, we're hearing cries of the need for economic enfranchisement. It's heartening to see that the church is more and more becoming involved. I also might mention that both of you are members of the National Baptist Convention. Am I correct?
Well, we are. I think you're with.
I'm National Baptist Convention USA Incorporated,
Okay.
and he's National Baptist Convention of America.
Right.
There are two Black National Baptist
Black
Conventions.
National Baptist Conventions, both which boast some pretty large numbers of people, which represents a large economic chunk of money.
That's
I mean,
correct.
plain said. What kinds of things do you see the conventions using the money to do, their combined economic power?
Well, our convention has had a very strong emphasis on giving support to higher education, Black schools in recent years. In the last year and a half, during the administration of Dr. T.J. Jemison, we've given close to $2 million in support to Black universities. We also are involved in housing, and we have a home missions program that is trying to deal with the same kinds of problems nationally that many of our churches are trying to deal with locally.
Would you say it's kind of a coming of age of the Black Baptist Church in terms of just evolving in the 20th century, just from humble origins to now the huge National Baptist Convention in Nashville, Tennessee, which hopefully we'll be able to see on folks later on this year.
Mm-hmm.
Is it kind of a natural process, or is it something that's had to be pushed by certain forward-thinking people who are thinking ahead?
Well, I think basically when you really look at it, it's been brought up to date, but traditionally we have been involved in these type of things. If traditionally there were very few welfare programs, like, say, for instance, in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s, the church was a welfare organization. As far as education opportunities were concerned, we have very few schools. The churches provided the education of our young. So what's happening now is that with the things that have happened through the past few years, we are in a position to where we can pool our resources to provide the things that Dr. Smith has mentioned, and we're in a position now to where we are able to do things on a larger scale, whereas we were doing it on a smaller scale individually before. We're able now to broaden the scale and do it on a larger scale, and we have more resources at our disposal too. I think, the church has always been involved in those things, but on a smaller scale.
Yes, let me add to what Reverend Pitcher has just said. If you go back to the history of this community, one of the earliest educational institutions for Black people in this community was a school called Baton Rouge College that was sponsored by the 4th District Baptist Association back at the turn of the century, when we didn't have any public school education. There are still citizens around Baton Rouge who attended Baton Rouge College. There's a history of such things as the Benevolent Society, which grew out of Black churches. When I was a boy, benevolent societies were rather popular, and they gave what they called doctor and medicine. They would give you $5 for a doctor's visit and $2 for your prescription to help meet the health needs of people who had hardly any insurance. These things were in existence, really being sponsored by the Black church for many, many years, but not on this highly organized basis as they are now. And they didn't, of course, get the publicity that certain things are getting nowadays. But the Black church has been busy meeting needs for a long time.
The satellite communications definitely has added to the effectiveness of lots of programs, not just the churches. That goes without saying. You can turn on the television any Sunday and see the minister from Los Angeles. His name escapes me right off the top of my head, but you know who I mean. You know who I'm talking about, ministering to people all over the world via cable and satellite, which is pretty outstanding. I'm sure there were times when you thought, Reverend Smith, you'd never see the day. But these things have indeed, or maybe you had the vision to know that it was in fact coming. Over the next 10 years, what can we expect to see, Reverend Pitcher, out of New Prospect Baptist Church in Baton Rouge? What are your plans?
Well, my vision primarily is one that we have one bus and we're servicing one area. There are many, many areas in this city as you ride through that need to be serviced in terms of getting the children off the street. And the children, I mean, like between the ages of 3 and, say, 12. We need to take an interest in if we can network. I'm trying to network with churches, and if we can pool our resources and pool our efforts and go into the communities and find a central location, if not each church have an individual program, maybe we'll have one large program where we can come in and let Save the Children be a citywide program rather than just a one church program. And that's my vision, to do that, to tap the resources that we have and to bring more children and involve more children into the type of program that we have.
Reverend Smith, the next 10 years at Shiloh.
Well, expansion upon the existing programs and developing a greater sensitivity to the emerging needs of the community as a whole. I think that one of the things that we must become more aware of is the changing attitudes in our communities, in politics, and what have you, towards the plight of minorities. People are not nearly as sympathetic today as they once were, and it's a matter of self-help, doing what we can for ourselves and utilizing our human and material resources in such a way that we get the most good out of them for everybody.
Thank you very much for coming today, and we're out of time for today's program. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.